Niall Morahan, welcome back to the programme.
Thanks for having me back.
It's been a strange kind of week, 10 days for you over the last 10 days, I suppose. Since we spoke to you last, there's been a complete roller coaster going on in the showgrounds. Let's start with the bad stuff and let's work to the more positive stuff. So, about 8-10 days ago, you now played in Cork. There was a big crunch relegation battle. Sligo and Cork both battling out at the bottom of the table, and it just didn't go well for you at all. What happened in Turner's Cross?
Yeah, no, it didn't go well for us at all. Obviously, we'd come off the back of two good performances against Derry and Shelbourne, and I think our hopes were high going down to Cork because, as I said, we were off the back of two performances and they weren't in the best run of form. Went down there and it just wasn't our night. We had one or two chances early on, and kind of the way it's going in these games, especially with no crowd, if you go ahead, you kind of stay that way, you know. So we definitely missed those chances at the start, and they came back to punish us. They nicked one, I suppose, halfway through the first half, and it was nip and tuck then. We had a few more chances, but late in the second half, they went on to get another one or two, and just wasn't our night.
Yeah, it was. I watched a bit of the game because I suppose the gods were in your favour in some respects, in terms of it didn't actually get to the televised platform online because there was a problem with cameras and whatever. There was a load of kind of discussion about what actually happened, but there was no game live on the TV or on watchloi.ie, the platform, and so I suppose Sligo fans were kind of saved from watching it, which was probably a blessing on everyone's behalf. But then 4 days later, you're back in the showgrounds. Waterford, I think it was the fourth time the game was fixed, because it was cancelled originally because of weather, and then it was cancelled because of COVID, and then it got cancelled again for Waterford. Had another player who had suspected COVID, and you went 1-0 down. It didn't look great, and then all of a sudden it was like Lazarus. The second half performance was exceptional from Waterford, or from yourselves. You just came out in that second half. I don't know what Liam and John said to you at half time, but it obviously had the desired effect. Alex Cooper's goal in injury time from a free kick, slightly opportune, but it was well taken and it was well executed. Back of the net, 2-1 win. There must have been some buzz in the team after that game.
Yeah, it was a serious mood booster for us, you know. Obviously we were expecting a big performance out of ourselves after coming back from Cork, and then after going 1-0 down, we said to ourselves, we need to turn this around. We felt we were in the game and just kind of regrouped at half time, and we went out and thankfully we won the second half, and it was a good day all around.
And then fast forward to a game that nobody really gave you a chance of winning. Probably even most involved in Sligo Rovers would have taken a draw going into the match, but you're playing the league champions Dundalk, albeit in a very rocky patch for them. They lost their manager midweek, they got knocked out of the Champions League midweek, but normally in those circumstances you expect teams to rally back, but it never quite materialised for them. Now they were decent, they were definitely in the game, but you got one on the break and then you got two on the break, and then all of a sudden it was just, you saved a penalty. Ed seems to have an unbelievable record against Patrick Hoban, because this one was, we were watching the game, a few of my friends were watching it all again on watchloi.ie, and we were in different places, but we were talking via WhatsApp, and I actually called it before Pat Hoban struck the penalty. I was like, Ed's saving this. He saved 2 out of 3, he'll make it 3 out of 4, and then he did. It was a great save in the end. He went the wrong way, but he got his hand back and knocked it over the bar. But in terms of the performance, like beating the league champions, now Sligo have a record of doing that. You beat Dundalk last year in Sligo. You beat Cork the year before, who were the reigning champions, down in Turner's Cross. I don't know if you were involved at that stage. It might have just been at the start of your time with the club, in the professional ranks of the club. But you have this habit of really pulling out massive performances against the big boys, and 3-1 winners on the night. Like, that's a statement. Like, you're now in the European spots ish, depending on how the cup final goes, but generally fourth place is good enough to get into Europe. Like, what's going on in the club? Because this is a different Sligo Rovers than what we saw back in February and March.
Just touching on the Dundalk game, I don't think there's as much pressure on the lesser teams as there would be on the likes of Dundalk. They know that they should be coming down and trying to beat us, but we go out and we've nothing to lose. It's not like they didn't cause us any problems, but we just hit them on the break a few times, and I think that's a big difference in our game now. We're taking our chances going up the field, we're creating a lot more, And yeah, it kind of turns our season around a bit. Like you said, we're up to fourth, but there's nothing between fourth to eighth, I think. So I think it's the highest position the club has been in a long time. And we're just looking to keep that going. I think we've all come back from the break seriously motivated, and I think that's stood to us in the games. You can see like we're working very hard and it's paying off.
But something's different about the club than maybe say 6 months ago, because there was and this is just from the outside looking in, being at games, but there was a kind of an air of dejection almost back in the club in February, March. What's different now?
Yeah, it's amazing what a win or two can do for a team and the club even in general. It seriously lifts the mood, and like you said, when it's so tight, the season is completely turned on its head. You're looking up the way instead of down the way. I suppose, like you said, in February or March it wasn't looking too good. You lose the first few games of the season and everyone's kind of panicking, but I think with the long break that we had, it was kind of playing on our minds the whole time, sitting bottom of the table, and we've came back and we've tried to undo that, and thankfully we have.
It's a huge indicator as to what's possible within sport in terms of those kind of comebacks. People see it maybe in games where a team was one behind and scores two to win, like he did on midweek last week, and like even Finn Harps did yesterday, for example. It was a great comeback win in dying moments to score two late goals. But I suppose the league this year has been very unpredictable. Like top teams are losing to supposed weaker sides. Results are so difficult to predict in this division this year. What do you put that down to?
I'd put it down to the shortened season. Nearly every game is like a cup final, you know. And as you know, the table, it's 1 week you're up, next week you're down because it's so tight and congested between 4th to 9th even, you know. And if you really have to be beating the teams around you to put a bit of breathing space between yourself and everyone else, and kind of like we did the last day against Dundalk, you have to look to take points off the top teams to help your case.
Now you mentioned something in there that I want to probe it a little bit more, and that's beating the teams around you, because I suppose coming into this second portion of the season, for want of a better word, people would have identified yourselves, Finn Harps, Cork and possibly Waterford as being the teams that might struggle. Now, of those three teams, you've played everybody, of course, at this point. We're at the halfway point in this shortened season. You've lost 2 of those 3 encounters. Is that a worry going forward? Are you happy enough that you can take points off the bigger sides, the likes of Dundalk that you beat the other day? You've also had victories over Shells, as we mentioned, but in terms of that going forward, is that a concern that is an issue, or are you happy enough that the points against Shells, Dundalk, Derry will lift you out of that? Because when you're losing 6 pointers, you have to win 2 to make up for that.
Yeah, I think you do have to beat the teams around you, but also then they could be picking up points elsewhere, picking up shock results or any of that. So you can never be too safe. You have to go out every week trying to beat everyone, you know. It is a new round of fixtures. We'll have to go up to Dundalk now, play them away. We'll have to travel to Tala. But then again, we'll have some of the teams around us. They'll have to travel to Sligo. So yeah, it's a new round of fixtures, and I suppose we'll just have to try and pick up as many points as we can.
I'm loving the confidence there. It's like we have to go to Tala, we have to go to Dundalk, but others have to come to us. And in the same breath, I love it. In terms of your own performance, how have you felt the last month has been for you personally?
I thought it's gone all right so far. Played pretty much every game. Came off against Cork with a little niggle, but obviously I'm happy with how it's going. 4 wins out of 5, and I feel I'm playing well, so it's all good.
There's been a bit of, obviously, the fact that the Watch LOI service is there. I keep talking about it because it's so important to the league now. We can't get to games, so it's the only way we have of checking it out. It's seriously good value. €55 for every game in the league is unbelievable. But in terms of there's been a few anomalies with it. People have, some of the commentators maybe not quite as up on the league as they possibly could be. I think Dara Maloney the other day gave you an identity change. You were Morahan rather than Morahan. I don't know if you knew that, but he mispronounced your name the whole way through unless you've changed, have you?
I haven't, no.
But he mispronounced your name the whole way through the show, and sometimes others have kind of gone, oh, he's only 19, he shouldn't be playing every week. And what do you say to that kind of criticism in terms of just because you're young? It's like, I think you're 20 now, but they're saying kind of, he's a young lad, get him out of the team just because he's young, even though you've shown over the last few months, like you were player of the year or player of the month back at the start of the season when it was happening. Do you have any concerns about that, or are you happy just to be in the team week in, week out? Do you even worry about that sort of stuff?
I don't worry about that at all, no. I think kind of anyone that is young or even elderly people would say that age is just a number. If you're good enough, you're old enough, you know. So it doesn't bother me at all. I'm just happy to be in the team week in, week out, and just once I get out there, I'm able to do my stuff, and none of that bothers me.
You're up against some of your old underage and maybe for a little bit senior teammates as well next week. You'd be looking at Liam Kerrigan and up against getting kicked probably most likely by Jack Keeney. In terms of obviously you're playing UCD away in the cup on Sunday evening, so does that come into the reckoning at all? Obviously that was an option for you at one stage, but you've chosen to stay at Sligo. How does that work out?
Yeah, it was an option for me at one stage after leaving school to take my education up to UCD, but I ended up staying in Sligo, and I'm happy with my decision. And I suppose when it comes to the politics of things, it all leaves once you step on the pitch, you know. So it's just like any other game, even though you'll be playing against a few your old mates. But like I said, once you step on the pitch, all that is gone.
So you'd be quite happy to kick Jack Keeney back?
I'd have no problem with it.
I'm sure you hear that. He'd be lining up to kick you now. Not that he's ever known to do that at all, ever. In terms of where your career goes from here, obviously there's 9 games left, plus possibly a cup run. Nice run to the semi-finals of that last year. How important is the cup in terms of the season that's there? Because you're currently in that spot that you don't quite qualify for Europe unless somebody in the top 3 or yourselves wins the cup. So is that a realistic goal? Is Europe, because everyone, that's what everyone's attention turns to, is Europe a realistic target for this group of players, or is it still a case of let's secure our status in the Premier Division first and foremost and see where we can build from there?
I suppose when you get up, I suppose the top 4 or 5 for the first time in a long time, like people don't know if they'd be getting ahead of themselves, but it'd be in people's minds, geez, we're in a spot here, we can push on. We see we're only a few points off Dundalk. If you pick up another win or two, you jump them, you know. But yeah, like everyone always wants to do well in the cup, and we're no different. We see UCD on Sunday. We've came up against them in the cup before. So yeah, we'll just go out, and obviously we'll give the cup our best run. And I suppose in terms of cementing a place in the league, we'll just keep looking up the way, and hopefully it turns out in our favour, and we'll end up in a European spot.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute crazy season this year in the League of Ireland. Well worth checking in for anybody who is following the league. And I suppose even that last 10 minutes for Finn Harps last night, it was 1-0 down on 80 minutes and they won the game 3-2. An absolute roller coaster over a ride. But those kind of games have been happening all season. Dundalk did something similar against Waterford last week. So it's all very unpredictable. It's drama at every single turn in the League of Ireland this year. Niall Morahan's been part of that with Sligo, with their late comebacks, with their totally unexpected victories against the likes of Dundalk last weekend, which was not expected by anybody outside of the Sligo camp, but fantastic to see it happen all the same. Niall, thanks very much for dropping in. The very best of luck to you against UCD in the Cup. Enjoy your little bit of a league break and then back to that hunt for European action. It's strange that in 2 weeks when you come back to play your next league game at home to Finn Harps, you could go 3rd in the league, but also if it doesn't go well for you, you could be 8th, 2 points off the bottom. So it's such a bizarre season that there's serious ramifications for everybody involved, probably from 3rd or 4th down to 10th, and really it's a case of watch this space and see how it goes, because any club could go in any direction. Like you've done, you've been the stars of the restarted season, 4 wins out of 5. It's good for a form as Sligo Rovers at the top of the table in the last 5 weeks, so well done to you and your teammates for that.
Thank you very much.